Hey guys, J9 here. Just today we're going to be doing meringue cookies. Um, so the recipe for meringue cookies is for every 2 egg whites, you use a half a cup of sugar and about an eighth to a quarter of a teaspoon of cream of tartar. And what that does is that helps to stabilize the meringue. Um, you can also use lemon juice. I've never done it, but I suppose any sort of acid would help. But yeah, I usually use cream of tartar. So yesterday I made brown sugar meringues. And what I did was I had 6 egg whites to work with. And for every 2 egg whites, you use a half a cup of sugar. So 6 would be 1.5 cups of sugar. So what I did was I cut it in half. So I did 3/4 of a cup of regular sugar and 3/4 of a cup of dark brown sugar. And then I mixed them together so that they would mix into the meringue better. So yeah, so you can do a brown sugar meringue and it tastes really yummy. Let me go get one for you. Hold on. So these yummy things are the brown sugar meringues. Okay, they're really small. They're only like about the size of a quarter, and they are very crispy. They fall apart in your mouth, but they're not hard like the ones that you get at the regular store because there's no stabilizers in it. There's no extra stuff in it to make sure that it stays. Anyway, um, these will last probably about a week. Um, I mean, that's the longest they've lasted in our house because usually they get eaten. So the recipe that I had for the brown sugar meringues, the one that took 6 egg whites, um, made 184 of the bigger size meringues, and then I don't even know how many ended up in here. A lot. Let's say 200, close to 200. Now these were made using a specialized tip. This is, let's see if you can see that. It's a special tip. This is number 864. I don't know if you guys can see that. Anyway, 864 is the number. And I used just a regular piping bag and the coupler. Put it on like that and just like that. And with the larger ones, I did a swirl pattern. But with the smaller ones, I just did a double like that. Boop, boop, boop. Okay? Now, today we're going to do the chocolate chip ones. The chocolate chip ones we're going to be doing without using a tip because they come out easier that way. Usually with the chocolate chips, even though they're the mini chocolate chips, they still get stuck in the tip. So it's better to do it without. Okay? So here's my mini chocolate chips. I've got my 6 egg whites and I brought them to room temperature, and I have my sugar. Okay, and I have my cream and tartar. Okay, so we're going to get started. Number 1, you want to make sure your oven is set to 250. It's a very low oven. They're going to go for 45 minutes on low, like 250. You want to make sure you're lining your pan with parchment paper. Okay. Now, the crazy thing is you're going to have to cut this parchment paper down to the size of your pan because for some reason they can't get the size right in the parchment paper. So I'm always having to cut it down because it's always too small or too big or whatever for my sheet pans. So I'm going to go do that and then I'll come right back. Okay, and we're back. So I have all three of my baking sheets have parchment on them. Okay. I have my piping bag, and it's already cut at the bottom to about the size that I need. Okay. You want to prepare as much as possible when you're doing meringues because it's very time sensitive. The longer you leave them in the bowl, the more deflated they're going to get. So you want to go as quick as possible with this. Now, your bowl should be 100% clean. There should be not anything in it. Any oils, any water, anything that gets in it is going to disturb the egg whites and not allow them to fluff up the way that they should. If possible, you could always chill your bowl and your whisk, both of which should be very, very clean. I can't stress that enough. Now, this is probably going to get loud, so you'll have to bear with me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the whites in here, and I'm going to beat them into oblivion. You want to beat them to until they're kind of broken down a bit. Always clean as you go, because then you won't have a dirty kitchen. Okay, so we're going to put the whites in there just by themselves. You're going to turn it on to the highest setting, and you're going to let them fluff up as much as possible. And as they're fluffing up, you're going to add about, let's see, I've got 6 in here, so about a teaspoon or more of cream of tartar. And that's going to stabilize them. Let's see. Hopefully you guys will be able to see this. Okay, here we go. Gotta let him keep going. Okay, so at this point what we have is a soft peak. Okay, you can see that. They're whipped up to the point where you're ready to add the sugar. Now you want to add the sugar in small increments, just like you did with the cream of tartar, and that's because you want to make sure. So sugar is hygroscopic, which means that it sucks up the water. So what it's going to be doing in here is sucking up the water out of the egg whites, and it's going to bring them up into a mass, and you'll see it grow in here. So it's going to end up being stiff peaks by the time we're done with this. Okay, so here we go. first set of half a cup. You want to let that mix in. All right, so there's our meringue. And let me tell you, those peaks are stiff. I could take this entire bowl and put it over my head and it wouldn't fall out. Oops. I'm going to get as much off of the beater as possible. Okay. Now, meringues are very messy. They're very sticky, but they're so good. Okay. So, take that off of your mixer. And the next thing, just want to scrape down the bowl. But you don't want to move it too much because you don't want to deflate the meringue. Okay. So now we're going to add the chocolate chips. And this, like most things that I do, is by eye. So. I've got a lot of meringue in here. Now, if you know how to fold, this next thing should be easy for you. Okay? You're just going to fold those chocolate chips into the meringue. Okay? Being careful not to deflate. You want to try not to deflate it. Okay. This stuff is really stiff. Okay, I can see that we're going to need more chocolate chips. Now that first bag wasn't full. It's maybe 3/4 full. So I'm going to say it'll probably take, what's that, 12 ounces? So maybe about 16 ounces of chips. Okay, so that's about right. And again, it's all to whatever your preference is. I don't know if you can see the little specks of chocolate in there. Okay, it's really to whatever your preference is. If you want more chocolate chips, then put more. If you want less chocolate chips, then put less. I'm kind of a middle of the road kind of person, so now this is the hard part, just filling it up. I'll start with a small spoon first, just to get into the lower parts where it's really tiny. Okay. And again, you want to try not to work with it too much because you don't want to deflate it. Okay. Okay. Now, if you don't have a piping bag, you can use a Ziploc bag. You can use 2 spoons, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. You can use 1 spoon and just do a plop, every couple of inches, whatever. I like to try and keep mine similar in size as I'm doing it, so that everyone gets the same size cookie. Okay, I'm going to twist the top, and then we're going to go and pipe. Okay. Here we go. Welcome to the piping portion of today's event. So what I like to do is to keep the paper from slipping, I'll put just a little bit, a little dabble-do-ya, onto the sheet pan, and it will hold down the parchment paper. Just the very littlest dab. And I only do it on 2 parts. I don't do it on all 4. Okay? So now, simple, we're just going to go straight down and come up. You should be able to get 6 or 7 per row on your sheet pan. Now, if you want to fill multiple piping bags at the same time so that you have a second one ready to go when you're done with the first one, that's fine. I don't know. That's kind of a waste. But if it's what you want to do, then by all means, feel free. Now these are going to bake at 250 for 45 minutes. And at 22 minutes, you're going to rotate them up and down and turn them side to side. Oops, side to side. I always get meringue on my hands. No wonder. Okay. So let's turn this around. Just like we did with the scones, you're going to rotate them up and down and turn them around. Now, if you have a convection oven, you are so very lucky, because you wouldn't need to do that, because the convection part of it keeps the air rotating so that you don't have to worry about turning them. Okay, I'm going to continue doing this, and I will come back when everything is done and ready to go in the oven. Okay, so the first batch is in the oven, 2 sheet pans, and they're going for 45 minutes, and at 22 minutes I'll flip them around. Now I wanted to show you guys how to do the double spoon method of putting these on the sheet pan. So hopefully you guys can see this clear enough. Let's see. Okay, I've rearranged a couple of things. Hopefully this will work. So I'm going to take a teaspoon. Put this over here. Take a teaspoon of the meringue, and I'm going to scoop it like a canal. Now, I wasn't really great at this when I was in school, but so you see how that looks kind of like an oval? And then you're going to put that onto the sheet pan. Now those are kind of big. I mean, in comparison to the other ones that I've made, that one's pretty big. Here, let's see. Maybe I can do it this way. The meringue is still pretty stiff. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see the difference between them. That's a pretty big meringue. So yeah, I prefer, sorry about that. I prefer to do them with the piping bag. It's just easier to control the size. And with these, you want to try and control the size because it's how much sugar is involved in it. Yeah, so I'm going to continue piping out the rest of these, and I will be back once the other ones are done. Okay, so our first batch is done, and I'm about to take them out. It smells amazing in this kitchen. Put the next set in. And we're going to restart the timer. 45 minutes. Okay, so now they're cooked, yes, but they need time to sit there for a little bit. And oops, let's just do this. They need time to just sit there for a little bit and think about what they've done. No, just kidding. Because right now, while they are delicious and yummy, they are probably a little bit soft. For a little while, they get sorry, they get a little crunchy once they mix with your saliva. They get a little sticky. So we're going to let them sit for probably about a half an hour. And then once that's done, they are ready to be eaten by whomever decides they want some. So for right now, we're just going to let them sit. And we'll be right back. Okay, so it's been about 20 minutes. And I just wanted to show you guys the cookies and how crispy they are. So if I look at that, they just fall right apart. They're great. They melt in your mouth. They're delicious. They're not chewy. They have plenty of chocolate chips in them. And I think they're great. So another important thing to know when you're making meringue cookies is when you're done using all of your supplies, like your bowl and the beater and all of that stuff, the dough, so to speak, is going to be sticky. So you want to make sure to use the hottest water and just kind of let it soak for a bit. Okay, so that's got the beater and the spatula and all of that stuff in there, and it's just going to soak for a little bit. And then once I'm done, I can put it in the dishwasher, but since it's already got soap on it, might as well just wash it. The other thing is that because it's mostly sugar, it'll just dissolve like right away. So anyway, I'm going to put the recipe in the description box below, and let's see. Oh, you can also make these vegan if you choose. Now, I haven't tried the liquid from the garbanzo beans, but I understand that that is a good option. Also, there's a thing called Versa Whip, which is a modified soy protein, but it's powdered. And it, when I was first starting to do all of this, a friend of mine who happens to be vegan bought me some of the Versa Whip, and I was able to make meringue cookies using the Versa Whip. And I'll put a link to both the Versa Whip and the recipe that I used, because it's not my recipe. I got it online. My arms are getting really cold. So I got that recipe online, so I'm not going to take responsibility for. I'm not going to take. I'm not going to take responsibility for it. I wasn't the one who created it. So, anyways, you can do these vegan. I have not tried them sugar-free or with lower sugar because I'm not 100% sure that they'll turn out as good. But yeah, there's several different options that you can use. You can add instant coffee to this, or coffee powder or whatever to this, and make coffee chocolate chip meringue cookies. You can add just about any flavor to it, but make sure you add a minimal amount and then check it to see if it tastes good. Like, try it first, because I did one with peppermint and I put too much peppermint in it, and it was like breathing in a Vicks. So I don't recommend that. You can also add colors to it. Just make sure you're adding a little bit, because remember, you're adding liquid to something that's supposed to be very dry. So I think that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Maybe you can hit the like button and, I don't know, subscribe. And I will see you the next time I do whatever. Bye.